Hello, Lost Woods Draft League viewers, players, whoever you are. Welcome to another video where I blabber about the teams in the league. So I started the season after the draft, before any games were played, ranking these teams just based on how I saw them and my preconceptions of them. Um, but now that we've seen a lot of weeks play out, 3 weeks to be exact, I wanted to take a look at them again and possibly re rank them or discuss how they've changed with transactions um, or just how my views have shifted. This isn't necessarily like, oh, this person has 3 losses, so the team is bad. Like, I'm not doing it based on performance. I'm doing it strictly on how I view the teams, and my views may have changed. So this was my tier list from last time. Take a look at that. Pause if you want to. I'm not going to read it out, but we'll see how this changes. Here is the current standings. Boston Blackjacks, myself in first, undefeated, the only undefeated team, followed by the New York Ninetales, which is still spelled wrong, Waltham Watchhogs, Toronto Toads, Good Guy Gudras, Area 151, Brattleboro Breloons, Rambunctious Reggies, and Macho Mudkips, all 2-1 in a essential tie. The 1 and 2s, the Stoneham Superiors, Sassy Sylveons, Northern Noiverns, the Slow Bros, and the Worcester Woosocks. And then in last is the 0 and 3s, Sharjosho and their Divas, and the Island Dragons. So yeah, my views have kind of changed about a few of these teams. Not necessarily because, oh, I ranked CJ's team a B last time and now they're 0 and 3. Like, I still think the team could be a B tier, or the Island Dragons are. Okay, well, that's a bad example. What's a better example? Whatever. You get what I'm saying. This is going to be not performance based. So the first team we're going to look at, we are going to go in order of what it is on the spreadsheet this time. So the first team is headed by Elena, the Brattleboro Breloons. So let me move myself. Can I not? Whatever. Alright. So Minior is a 120 speed Pokemon. Why is that bar there? Give me a sec. I'm sorry. Alright, I'm smaller now. So about the same as it was before. I don't remember any of the transactions. I had transactions up. So let's take a look at those actually, shall we? So Elena swapped Torracat for, and Mamoswine for, oh no, Mamoswine for Torracat and Piloswine. No. Torracat and Piloswine for Mamoswine. I can read. Any other moves? Yes, Clefairy switched to Grimmsnarl after it was dropped by Corrosion. So my original thoughts on this team were that it wanted to do rain stuff, and that was about it, and the only way to get rain up was with Murkrow, effectively. Just out of curiosity, I'm going to look in the standings. Elena is... Am I blind? Yeah. 2 and 1. So, about what I expected. I genuinely think this is about the same. I think Grimmsnarl definitely helps. Just sitting behind screens with something like Archaladon is pretty solid. I think Mamoswine's a very good pickup. You know, an Intimidate immunity, as well as just being so much stronger than Piloswine. As decent as Piloswine is, having this offensive coverage is really good, especially on a team that doesn't really deal with grass type super well. Being able to hit it with a very, very strong ice type is something scary for this team. I am going to go ahead and say that I'm going to toss this in the B tier again. I do think it knows what it wants to do. It's going to do it well. Um, I just think there's not enough flexibility week to week in what it can do. Next is going to be Mr. B's New York Ninetales. So last time I rated this, I'm so smart. Oh my god. I rated it in the C tier. It is second place currently. And admittedly, I still don't really get it. I haven't watched replays for everything. Have there been any moves for this team? That's the question. Mr. B, no. No moves. So really, I think this lands about the same spot in... I rated it a C tier. The thing I will say is Paradox Pokemon didn't stand out to me at first as something that could be so strong. I was thinking very in the context of VGC, and I'm like, oh, Iron Boulder's not very good in VGC. But in a draft league where you can pick the moves it wants to use, you can change its stats around and use booster energy, like, these Paradox Pokemon are so versatile just because of booster energy. That said, I should probably watch these matches, but, I don't know what it wants to be. I think I'm going to keep it in C tier. Let me do this before anything happens. Add a row below. What did I do here? A. Make this A minus. Change some colors. No. Change some colors. Real professional here at the studio. The studio. Green and blue. No. You know what I'm gonna do? Wait. A minus. I think I'm gonna add a C plus. No, I'm not gonna do anything. You're gonna go back to colors. Don't you love this? I was thinking maybe the New York Ninetales go to like a B minus or a C plus. But I can call this top of C tier. And I'll be comfortable doing that. So next is Area 151, headed by Corrosion, who is currently 2-1 because I robbed them of week 1. Admittedly, I didn't play super well, and they played well and got very unlucky. So the first changes to the team are Grimmsnarl is now a Meowstic, Gyarados is now Galarian Moltres, Vikavolt is now Azumarill, Darkspun is now Trapinch. There might be some other moves. Let me check the transactions. Yep. So they dropped, going into week 5, they will not have Pachirisu or Stantler, and instead will have Comfey and Elekid for those. Corrosion's team was really scary for me, and still is. But with these moves, especially having no Intimidate on the team, Azumarill, which does not have as much flexibility in my eyes as Gyarados, and no super strong Terra Flying, like, not that 81 speed, like, no, they're set up, it gets Belly Drum, obviously. I'm not seeing this one as much as I was. I do think Meowstic is great. I think Meowstic being able to Prankster set Psychic Terrain for Iron Crown is super cool, so that's worth a shout. Entei's still super strong. Spectre still super strong. Um, Galarian Moltres is solid, but I liked the team a bit more before. I'm unfortunately going to be dropping this to an A minus. I thought it would remain the same, um, but I don't know. Just not loving it. All right, now on to the team ran by Rockwell that made me want to make this whole video in the first place. Has Rockwell made any transactions? No, Rockwell has not made any transactions. He has stuck to this team. So as I was alluding to before when I was looking at Mr. B's team and Iron Boulder, this team has 3 Paradox Pokemon. All future Paradox, but that's not relevant. Because with Booster Energy, these Pokemon are so hard to fight. You don't know week to week which of these things is going to be holding Booster Energy, if any of them. Like, essentially, you can get a free Choice Scarf or a free Life Orb with these things, and they're going to be doing so much damage that you just can't prepare for. Like, you could run a Scarf Pokemon to deal with Jugulus or Moth, and then all of a sudden it hits the field and it has Booster Energy speed, and now all that's went to waste. They also have 2 hazers and a pseudo hazer. Galarian Weezing gets haze, and Clear Smog. Politoed gets haze, so you can't just shut it down by saying, okay, I'm going to taunt the Weezing, because then it can't use haze, because it could have Clear Smog. Who knows? And you can't just say, okay, I'll go Terra Steel for Clear Smog, because it also gets haze. Last time when I was looking, I think I missed that Sinistcha was the grass type. This is the water type. This is the fire type. I also did not put enough respect on Iron Moth's name. I was like, oh, it doesn't get any poison moves. Who cares? It gets a bunch of other moves, and especially Meteor Beam can be so scary. Acid Spray can be a pain in the butt. This team does well with just being able to handle your own Sludge Wave. Baxcalibur is so strong and in this cool speed tier where it can Dragon Dance or doesn't have to. Toedscruel, being able to just put things to sleep regardless of their ability, while Galarian Weezing can just shut down abilities. This team has a lot more involved than I realized. My main issue is still that there is, do I have an issue with this team anymore? I still don't love Iron Moth. I mean, as a fire type, it's very good. Poison type, it might as well just be a pure fire type. If I think of it not as a poison type, yeah, solid. Iron Jugulus can do so much crap. Politoed is another hazer, and it gets Rain, which is phenomenal for this team, to shut down fire types that might want to deal with Sinistcha, or burn Iron Hands. They can't burn Baxcalibur. Like, again, I think Galarian Weezing is something I really overlooked in Draft League, where abilities are so good. And he gets to decide each week, alright, am I going to bring Galarian Weezing? Am I even going to bring Galarian Weezing with Neutralizing Gas? Because it can just run Misty Terrain and say, alright, no more dragons and no more status, like, screw you. So I think this is a very cool team. A lot that's tricky to deal with. And a lot of solidly fast Pokemon as well as slow Pokemon. Great Tailwind user. I am thinking I'm giving this the biggest jump to A-. From D tier to A-. I get it now. After prepping this week, I get it. I get it. And again, this is not just performance. This is a jump. Props to Rockwell for making this team. Next is going to be Liam with this team of Noivern, Sneasler, Gliscor, Indeedee Female, blah 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 blah. Moves that have been made. Yes, Galarian Slowking became regular Slowking. And I have to say, that's a very big change. As much as it is the same Pokemon, quote-unquote, that's a big change. Water type is really strong, and Psychic type is really strong. and being able to throw out expanding forces while having a much better defensive and offensive typing than poison psychic is very big for me. I think Sneasler has the poison part covered. Um, I think, yeah, I still like this team quite a bit. I do think Abomasnow is a bit weak, and I think Alolan Sandslash is weak. Um, but having a defensive water type, Crawdaunt is a water type, but defensively it's not real. Um, Slowking adds a lot to this team. Um, so I think this team is still strong. I had trouble prepping for it. I'm still going to put it in B tier because I do think it's pretty spelled out what it wants to do. The only thing is, like, Sneasler can be tricky, but Slowking definitely adds a lot. Like, I know I'm putting this in the B tier again, but take that with a grain of salt. Like, I don't think it's enough for an A minus, but I could certainly see it in a B plus area. High B. Like that. Next is the Stoneham Superiors, led by Daddy Sama. Where did I rate this last time? C tier. Where are we in the ratings? 1 and 2 still. Again, this is a team I'd have a lot of trouble placing in D tier because it's so spelled out in what it wants to do. But it's just so strong that, like, yes, you know what it's going to do, but you still need to figure out how to shut it down. C tier, I don't believe any moves have been made on this team. Yeah, none. Keeping it where it is. I got nothing to say. Alright, next is Chris's team. Last time I put Chris's team in the B tier. Has Chris made any moves? Chris. Nothing from Chris, and I don't believe he's put in any transactions. I still like this team, but I think my biggest issue is a lack of oomph. And, like, it's weird to say because it has a Walking Wake, it has a Kingambit, it has Ogerpon. I think my problem that I didn't realize with this team is Ogerpon is a very inflexible Pokemon. Any Pokemon that's locked into its item is one that can be super undesirable. If you're bringing Ogerpon Cornerstone, you're bringing Ogerpon Cornerstone. You don't have the luxury of bringing Ogerpon with Rocky Helmet, with Lumberry, with anything. It is Ogerpon Cornerstone Mask. And that can be a real detriment to it. It's kind of forced to do what it is on paper. Palmot, I think, is really bad. I'm sorry, Chris. I know you love Palmot. I love Palmot too. It's my favorite Pika clone. I think it's adorable. I think this Pokemon's so bad. I think it does not have enough offensive output. I don't think it can support well enough. 105 is a kind of awkward speed. It just doesn't have it. I think every game plan revolving around Whimsicott is kind of a bummer. I still like the setups. I think Corviknight's really strong. I think Gambit's really strong. I think Wake is really strong, especially when the sun's out. But there were some things I overlooked with this team that, I don't know. Dugtrio, I think, is an abomination Pokemon. I think it's so bad. I unfortunately have to put this in the C tier. Just because of inflexibilities and also a big lack of, like, flexibility in what these Pokemon can do. Like, Corviknight, pretty simple what it's going to do. Kingambit only has one real thing. Arcanine, I still think is really, really good. But Chris has been relying on it for offense a lot when it could be a support, and maybe that offense could go somewhere else. But, not being fast in Kingambit and Corviknight needing a setup, and even then not being able to perform super well, I I think Dugtrio and Palmhot are just really bad. Spather's okay. Um, so yeah, C for Chris. I guess I'll go over the changes to my team. I've made a lot of them. The first one was Gengar becoming Hisui and Zoroark. I wish I had gotten this in for week 2. Unfortunately, I got it in for week 3 because I was on vacation. And the reason I did that was because I wanted one more point so that I could trade out Oricorio, Pom Pom, and Chestnut for Raikou. Raikou is a much better Pokemon than either of these two combined. Um, and Hisui and Zoroark kind of just let me do that while also giving me a Pokemon that has a real ability, as well as a really annoying one to deal with. They basically have the same movesets. There are a few things that Gengar gets that Hisui and Zoroark doesn't. I think like the big ones being like, uh, I don't remember. It was some status move that Gengar got and Hisui and Zoroark doesn't. But for the most part, they get pretty similar move pools. Um, Hisui and Zoroark gets Flamethrower, Gengar gets like Thunderbolt and a bunch of other crap. Hisui and Zoroark also gets offensive or physical attack, and it's not like it wants to use it off of 100, but it can. You know, it can Sucker Punch, it can Shadow Sneak, and do decently. It also gets Swords Dance. Like, it gets a bunch. For only one less point, I thought it was pretty equal, and getting Raikou was very worth it. The last change that is not reflected is I did get, going into week 5, so not while I'm talking, is I traded out Blastoise for Vaporeon. I think Vaporeon is a much better pick. It has a real ability. It has just better distributed stats, whereas Blastoise just couldn't, for me, get the offense or the defense I wanted. And for that reason, it's out. So looking at the team, this is what it is currently. Raikou, the big pick reason was for 115 speed. This Hisui and Zoroark is wrong. This is 110 speed. The rest is what it is. I'm 3-0 right now with this team. I'm very happy with it. I think it is still in the S tier. Yay. Sorry. I don't like talking about myself. I feel very conceited. Next is AJ with the Toronto Toads. So let's take a peek. The Toronto Toads are 2-1. Last time I put the Toronto Toads in the A tier. And yeah, I think I see the reason why. 2 Paradox Pokemon in Sandy Shocks and Roaring Moon, so their choice of what they want to do. Ambipom with Cobalion, beat up stuff. Glamora with, this team is gross. This team's gross. The thing I still don't like is that Moltres as a fire type isn't great. Ogerpon Wellspring as your grass type and not resisting grass, and not resisting, well, and your water type not resisting fire, and your other water type not resisting fire. There are fire options, you know. Sandy Shocks preys on fire types. Roaring Moon resists. Moltres resists. Glamora preys on them. So maybe not the worst options for Fire Water Grass, but also revisiting kind of what I discussed with Chris's team, Ogerpon doesn't have flexibility. It's forced into its role. You know what it's going to do. It has a lot of move options, but it doesn't have that item flexibility, which is so crucial in draft. Otherwise, I'm not big on Cobalion as something that doesn't resist Fairy, but I'm realizing that Fairy types are so few and far between in draft. Like, it's very hard to get an offensive Fairy type. But yeah, I like this team. I still think this is an A-tier team. It's still missing that little something that would push it over the edge. Primarily the fact that Moltres is not a good Pokemon. These speeds are gross, though. These speeds are really fast. Let me think. this team's good. This team's good. That's like some real VGC mons. Roaring Moon, Ogre Pond, Sandy Shocks, Gomorrah, Cress, Conk. Oh, this is a team. This is a team. I almost want to put it A+. A. Alright. Cheese Boy. Rambunctious Reggies. Sitting in at another 2-1. The Rambunctious Reggies. Alright. So, what changed on this team? I don't think anything did. Unless they... I don't remember if I made my tier list, like, after the transactions were in or not. Like, I don't think Hisui and Samurott was here originally. Give me a sec. You're probably going to hear me talk in the background. And that is... You know what? I'll just mute the video. You know what? I'll even show you the video. So what was the status of that team at the time? Alright. Okay, it was Hisui and Samurott and Ariados and Farigiraf. Okay. Team's cool. I dig it. I think it's solid. Last time I put it in the A- tier. Iron Valiant is certainly a Pokemon that can do a lot of things. Heatran, Thwackey, Hisui, and Samurott. No great grass type, but that's, I think, okay. Rhyperior or something. Ariados. Ariados is still a really bad Pokemon. And I don't think this team has Haze or anything. I don't have much to talk about because it's one and the same, but looking at it again with my newfound draft league knowledge, I think I'm putting this down to B tier from A-. I don't really have an explanation of why. I just feel like it's not what I originally thought it was. Like, Regidrago, I think, is very easy to counter. Iron Valiant, very hard. And oh, this is a tough one to say A-. This is one where it's like a high B. You know? It's another one of those high Bs, and I wish I did more to separate, but you're just going to have to take my voice as gospel and not the actual list I made. Alright, next up is... Yep. The Wall Fam Watchhogs, headed by Ronald. I don't think anything has changed on this team. Last time I put it in D tier, and I'm still inclined to. I think Regieleki, obviously, like, good mon for speed control. Meowscarada can hit decently. Latios can set up. Dondozo's there. I think Glastrier is terrible. I think Knucklestack is eh. I think Toxapex is eh. I think Malamar's eh. I think a lot of this team is very eh. I think it has the making. I think it has some of the like best Pokemon here. I think Landorus is amazing. I think Latios is amazing. Magmar. But overall, I just am not seeing it. I know this is still a 2-1 team. I think that owes itself to how Ronald plays and preps. But this team just, for me, it's a no. I don't get it. I don't see it. I don't think it's strong enough. I don't think it's strong enough. It has some hard hitters. Just, no. No. Doesn't do it for me. Sorry. Next is Ivan with Scyther, Thunderous Therian, Paldean Tauros, Aqua, Electivire, Tinkaton, Gouging Fire, Klefki, Tsarina, and Primarina. Were there any moves for Ivan? No. I thought Ivan had made moves. Last time I put this in the A- tier. Really. Um, I guess... Wait, hang on. I think there was a recent transaction. Um, no, that was Hawk who dropped his Tauros. Um, so where are we in the standings? 1 and 2. I still think Gouging Fire and Tinglu is very, very strong. I think that this has fallen a bit. Like, this is good VGC Pokemon, but Scyther is a tough Pokemon to bring, and outside of that, you don't have great speed control. Gouging Fire is like the Pokemon on this team, and then the rest kind of just falls. So this is another one that I'm gonna knock down quite a bit. I think this team just doesn't have it, and I'm gonna toss it. And it's too reliant on one Pokemon. So I am gonna put this in D tier, unfortunately. All right. CJ's team is next, and CJ has made some moves. I know that they have not won any games, but that is not representative of the team itself necessarily. CJ traded Charge Bug for female Oinkologne, Chinchino for Electrode. I think that's a decent swap, as much as I love Chinchino, getting some extra speed on a team that is very reliant on Trick Room. Changing Enamorous Incarnate for Hatterene. Definitely leans more into the Psy-Spam aspect of things. But, alright. Here's where I have to break the unfortunate news, which is that I said this team was not one note in Mousehold and Annihilate. However, yes, you're going to have to play like how are they going to lead, but it's very easy to say, alright, I throw a Follow Me user on, I throw something to interrupt the terrain before Psychic Terrain can come out, I put a Dark type on the team. Like, I think everyone knows what this team's going to do, and this team doesn't have options beyond what it shows it's going to do. And I don't know if CJ has leaned into the just Psy-Spam mode, just hard Trick Rooming, but everyone can tech Trick Room or imprison Trick Room or run their own Trick Room Pokemon. Like, it's not hard to prep for this. It's really strong in a vacuum, but it doesn't work for draft. It just doesn't. It would be a tough thing to bring to D tier, because again, I do think there's a lot of strong synergies on this team that need to be respected, but they're preppable. They're very preppable. I don't understand the Oinkologne female pick. I think... Oh, wait. Oinkologne female, I think, has Aroma Veil, meaning that nothing can put to sleep, which is okay, I would say. If every team had an Amoonguss, that'd be great, but that's not the case. So yeah, unfortunate drop to C tier. Next is Hawk's team. Hawk has Tornadus, Electabuzz, Palafin, Galarian, Articuno, Shiftry, Hitmontop, Breloom, Pelipper, Hisuian, Goodra, Beartic. I think there was one move on this team, and it was Tauros Blaze Breed to Hisuian Goodra. So, what changes with that? You no longer have a fire type, and you had 2 fighting types. You get a steel type and a dragon type. You still don't have a fairy type. I think this team is a mess. It doesn't have types. It doesn't have immediate offense. It doesn't have a lot. I think this is a very quick D tier move. Yeah. I just don't see this one. I think this team is very, very easy to play into. Next, second to last, we have Muhammad's team, Lumishen. Lumishen has made 2 moves. Hatterene to Staraptor. I think that's good. Squawk ability to Vivian, I think that's very good. Brion and Crocolore to charge a bug? What? How much were those things? I need to see how much they were, because I think charge a bug is the trollest mon. Like, yeah, it has a cool ability, but it just sits on the field. It's not like it has redirection. Like, just kill the things next to it. Who cares? Brion was 1 point. Crocolore was 2 points. So you needed something from the threes, huh? Oh, wrong team. Where was Toadschool? Toadschool was in 3. 1, 2, 3, that's 6 points. Instead of charge a bug, in 3, you could have gotten... You could have gotten Alchemy, bro. You could have gotten a fairy type that decorates, and your things can't go to sleep. You could have gotten a real Pokemon. You know what, that's what you should do. Drop Toadschool and charge a bug, and pick up Alchemy. You have Vivian for redirection. You don't have to worry about it in Toadschool anymore. Your grass type is Toadschool. What is this? I don't get it. I don't like it. Again, this is better than it was. Weavile, Latias, Galarians, like, these hit hard. These are very hard-hitting, fast Pokemon. And Iron Bundle lends itself to saying, you will never be faster than me. Latias can set up Trick Room. Galarian, Zapdos can set up Trick Room. Staraptor can set up Trick Room. Vivian can set up Trick Room. Tailwind. Tailwind. All of them are Tailwind. But these Pokemon are so bad, and it's like, yeah, you don't need every Pokemon to be amazing, but it's just... I don't know, man. I don't know, man. D tier for the Worcester Woosok. No, I can't. It's a C tier. Because these the offense is so potent. It's just defensively, this team kind of crumbles. Toadschool and Chargebug aren't doing anything. Last, Sassy Sylveons, headed by Alec. Who I... oh, wow. Alec has lost, too. Alec... Has Alec made any moves? No. For me, it's still hard to place this team anything but in S tier. This team has a lot going on. And I learned that Noctowl is a very real Pokemon, apparently. Like, it can hit really hard. It can still do Trick Room things, and I played into Trick Room being a thing. I think this one is... I do think Cacturn's not a good Pokemon. I think a few things could change on this team. The Ogerpon issue I discussed, but I think Ogerpon Hearthflame with Grass and Fire is just in such a different realm, and having Embody Aspect attack boost is so different to me than the other two. I think Grass and Fire is way less weak than, like, Grass and Water or Grass and Rock. I would be a fool not to put this in S tier. How do I feel about this? Let us compare it to last time, where we had these. So Area 151 dropped to A- with a bunch of the changes. The first 3, Boston Blackjack, Sassy Sylveons, Toronto Toads, the ones with alliteration, did not go anywhere. Rambunctious Reggies fell out of A- to B. The Good Guy Gudras went from D to A-, and the Slowbros went from A- to D. So those two swapped. B tier, we had a few drops out of B tier. We had the Rambunctious Reggies drop from A-. Why did I drop the Rambunctious Reggies again? Rambunctious Reggies was, Mr. B? No. Cheese Boy. Oh, yeah, 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 right. I think it's easier to play around than I thought. But yeah, a lot of drops to C tier. Um, the Macho Mudkips and the CJ Nation, Charjo Show, and their divas, I think are C tier just because I think they're easier to play around than I originally anticipated. Um, two D tiers remain the same. So really, just one less A, um, one less B, two more C's. Um, yeah, I think having played and prepped a bit more has changed my view of how VG Draft League works, um, or VGC Draft League. Maybe this will change in the future. Maybe I'm being too harsh. Um, and maybe when I actually prep against some of these teams, I will have different views. Um, but yeah, that's it for now. Feel free to leave your thoughts. Hopefully, I didn't hurt any feelings.